and that's a reasonable amount for someone at my age. So can you imagine 12 to 14? And that's different careers, not just different jobs. I've had lots of different jobs in that time, but one of them was a very long career in government. Okay, so let's see. So I might tell you a little bit about my story, and then you'll get an idea about my career changes, and then we'll learn some lessons from my career. Okay, so when I went to school, I was trying to do lots of different subjects because I was keeping my options open. Does it sound familiar? Many people doing all different things because they're not exactly sure what they want to do. Some of you like that? Well, I was like that. I thought I was good on the humanities, like English and history, but I thought I'd better do a bit of science, a bit of maths, a bit of everything. When I finished school, I was not ready to go straight to university. I took a year off, and that was great for me. I went and worked. I worked in a bank, and that gave me really good experience with customer service, and it helped bring out my confidence. And after a year of doing the bank, I got a bit bored, so I was really ready to go to university. And by then I said, I'm not going to just study anything, I'm going to study things that I think I'm really interested in and I'm good at. So I studied art subjects like sociology and Japanese and communications, anything that interested me. And I wasn't really worried about the career at the end of that. I just wanted to go to university and have a great time, which I did, so much so that I later on worked in universities. But I just wanted to study things that I thought were interesting to me. And luckily for me, at that time, it didn't matter so much what you studied. And in fact, it's a bit like that now. It was more about the soft skills, the human skills that you gain along the way. And that is one of the things that's one of our big lessons is in the future, having those soft skills is so important, not just having the technical skills. So I studied uni, and then when I got to the end of university, I thought, oh, what am I going to do? And in the end, I got a job in a bank. I went and I worked in a bank for a year, and then I took a graduate position in a bank, a management training position in human resources, so dealing with people. So it was a step up. University was not a waste. I did that for 3 years, and I found I loved recruiting, like finding people the job, getting them in the best job, interviewing people, working out who has the best skills to fit into which job. So I learned that. It's a key lesson. But after 3 years, Australia was suffering a big recession, and I ended up losing my job. And you know what? I was 24 years old, and I had worked my way up the ladder somewhat, and suddenly I found myself without a job. And I was not prepared for it. I was devastated, actually. And it was a recession, so it was really hard to get jobs, and I wanted human resource jobs. And of course, companies weren't hiring. They were getting rid of staff. So it was a big lesson for me about not putting your whole life into your work, which is what I was doing. So lucky for me, the bank gave me some assistance to find, to fix up my resume and work out my career direction. And really what I worked out at that time was I wanted a job with security. When you lose your job, that's often one of the first things you think about is job security. Are you going to have job security in the future? No, it won't work, even now. But this is 20 years ago. So back then, I could. Where do you get job security? In government work is one of the places. So I wanted to get a job in the government. And I did. I managed to get in. It took a few goes, but I got in. And the great thing was that I joined a department where I had opportunities to work overseas. And that was one of the things. How old are you guys? 17. So you'll remember back to when you were 15, 16. Think about the things that you liked back then. Because sometimes the things that you like at 15 and 16 are the things that will always be the things that you like. So for me, I loved radio. I wanted to be a radio journalist. And for me, I wanted to travel. I didn't have the chance until I was 19. But I wanted to travel and live and study overseas. How I knew that, I don't know. But I always had that interest. So finally, when I'm 25 and I get back on track again, I end up in the government. And I end up in a department that I find has overseas postings. You can go and, if you are successful, it's very competitive, become a diplomat. Wow, I lucked out big time. Yeah? And that's what I did for the next 20 years. So I went and I was devastated leaving the bank, and then suddenly I have been able to use my skills again to move in, but I had to start again. I start back at the management trainee, graduate trainee level again after 3 years of working. But I did it, and it was great. And I lived and worked overseas. And finally I went to Malaysia in 2007, so 10 years ago. And I had a 3-year posting there. And then I met my husband. He's Malaysian. So that was really nice too. But it changed my life too, not just meeting him, which does change, but also because then I decided that maybe I've done enough of this work for nearly 20 years. So it's time to do something different. I want to stay in Malaysia, I want to stay in Asia. I really like it here. And so then I thought I wanted to move into higher education, working in universities, working with young people like you who are going to move into university and then making that transition. So I started working in universities, but I had to make a career change. So I went from one from banking and human resources into government work, diplomacy, and then here I was going into universities. It's not always easy to make those transitions, but I was able to, because I could identify my transferable skills. What did I learn in the other places that I can use in the next one? And you have to sell it. You have to identify it, work out what those skills are, and explain in your interviews how you can use it and why it's useful. I could do that. But really what I was working towards was my big love, career coaching, which is something I wanted to do probably since I was about your age. But I knew that so much work and life experience would be good, would be useful to be a career coach. You don't want to start this when you're 20 years old. It's better to have all of this life experience. So what did I learn through my career? I learned things like being adaptable. This is a really great lesson. You need to be open to opportunities. You need to be flexible because you will be changing your career 12, 14 times, whatever it might be. You need to be resilient. You need to pick yourself up off the ground when you've worked hard for 3 years and it was everything you did, and then just get back in the game again. You need to be thinking about the future of work.